Have you ever been in a meeting, someone says something completely ordinary, and suddenly you feel this weird urge to laugh? Not because it's funny, not because you're trying to be rude, it just bubbles up out of nowhere. Or maybe you've been at a funeral, and out of nowhere, a laugh tries to escape your mouth. You clench your jaw, you bite your cheek, you feel like a terrible person, but the laugh keeps pushing. Or you're getting scolded by your boss, and instead of looking sorry, you feel your lips twitching upward. You have to look at the floor just to keep a straight face. If this has ever happened to you, you're not broken, you're not disrespectful, and you're definitely not alone. This happens to almost everyone, in almost every culture. And today we're going to figure out why your brain does this strange, awkward, sometimes embarrassing thing. Let's start with what most people believe is going on. Most people think laughing at the wrong time means something is wrong with them. The logic feels airtight. If you truly cared about what was happening, you wouldn't be able to find room for a laugh. Real grief doesn't leave space for humor. Real respect doesn't crack a smile in front of a judge, a doctor, or a casket. So if a laugh slips out anyway, it must be revealing something uncomfortable and true about you. That you're colder than you thought. That some part of you finds other people's pain a little bit funny. Or that you simply don't feel things as deeply as everyone else in the room. This is why so many people brace for the laugh before it even happens. They rehearse the apology in their head, something like, "I promise I'm not like this. I don't know what's wrong with me." The same way you'd prepare an excuse for a crime you haven't committed yet. Just expecting the laugh becomes its own quiet source of dread. There's also a popular shortcut people reach for. It's just nervous energy. Something short circuits, the body misfires, and there's nothing more to it than that. It sounds almost like a medical explanation, which is exactly why it gets repeated so often. And there's a third belief hiding underneath the first two, that laughing at a funeral, in a hospital room, or during bad news, is proof your emotions aren't as real as they should be. That the people crying around you are feeling something you're somehow immune to. That your laughter is a kind of confession, whether you meant it to be or not. Here's the problem. None of these explanations hold up under any real scrutiny. They don't match what neuroscientists and psychologists have actually found happening inside your brain and body in that exact moment. In fact, the real explanation is almost the complete opposite of what most people assume. So what's really going on? Laughter is not only a response to something funny. That's the biggest misunderstanding. We grow up thinking laughter equals humor, like they're the same thing. But researchers who study laughter have found something surprising. Most laughter has nothing to do with jokes at all. In fact, studies on laughter in everyday conversations found that the vast majority of laughs happen after completely unfunny statements. Things like, "I'll see you later," or "That's true." No punchline, no joke. Just laughter as a social signal. So if laughter isn't really about humor, what is it about? Laughter is, at its core, a release valve for your nervous system. When your body experiences a spike in emotional intensity, whether that's fear, tension, awkwardness, grief, or even relief, your nervous system needs a way to discharge that extra energy. Laughing is one of the fastest tools your body has for doing exactly that. This is why laughter shows up in moments that have nothing to do with comedy. Funerals, hospital waiting rooms, getting yelled at, watching someone get hurt, sitting through an incredibly awkward silence. In all of these situations, your body is flooded with intense emotion, and it needs somewhere to put that energy. Your brain essentially has two systems fighting for control in these moments. One is the emotional system, which is overwhelmed and trying to process something heavy, sad, scary, or tense. The other is a kind of built-in pressure release system. When emotional intensity crosses a certain threshold, especially when you also feel the need to suppress your natural reaction, laughter can burst out as a way of letting some of that pressure escape. There's a term for this. It's sometimes called nervous laughter, but that phrase barely scratches the surface of what's actually happening. It's not simply about being nervous. It's about your nervous system trying to regulate itself during emotional overload. Neuroscience gives us more clues here. Laughter activates several brain regions at once, including areas tied to motor control, like your face and diaphragm, but also deeper areas involved in emotional processing, including the amygdala, which handles fear and threat detection. In tense or serious situations, your amygdala is already highly active. Laughter can act almost like a pressure valve on an overheating engine, a way for your nervous system to cool down fast. This also explains why the urge feels involuntary. You're not choosing it, and you're not being disrespectful on purpose. There's another layer to this too. Humans are deeply social creatures, and laughter is one of our oldest tools for managing social tension. Long before complex language existed, early humans likely used laughter to signal safety, diffuse conflict, and ease group anxiety. If a group faced a dangerous or stressful situation and someone laughed, it may have functioned as a signal. We're okay. The danger has passed. We can relax now. That social route is part of why laughter still feels contagious when tension builds in a room. The same ancient wiring firing in a modern meeting or funeral home. So the awkward laugh you feel bubbling up when your boss is upset with you isn't a character flaw. It's an ancient stress response mechanism, firing off in a very inconvenient moment. There's also a timing element that makes this even more interesting. Inappropriate laughter tends to show up most often at the exact moment tension peaks and starts to break. That split second where your brain senses the worst part might be over. This is sometimes called the relief point. Think about a scary movie. The jump scare itself rarely makes people laugh. It's the few seconds right after, when your body realizes the threat has passed, but adrenaline is still flooding your system. That leftover energy has to go somewhere, and laughter is often the fastest exit ramp available. This also explains why laughter can hit in waves. You suppress the first one, and a second, stronger wave hits a few seconds later. That's not weakness. That's your nervous system still processing a spike of emotion it hasn't fully discharged. And the harder you clamp down, the more pressure builds, which is part of why staying perfectly stone-faced can backfire. This mechanism isn't even unique to humans. Researchers have observed similar laughter-like vocalizations in chimpanzees and bonobos after conflicts settle down within the group, suggesting nervous laughter isn't a modern glitch in human psychology. It's a survival tool that predates humans altogether, shared across species that depend on social bonds. Let's look at how this actually plays out in real life. Picture a courtroom. A witness is describing a traumatic event. The room is heavy with grief and tension. And then, out of nowhere, someone in the gallery lets out a nervous laugh. Everyone stares. The person turns red with embarrassment. But what happened wasn't disrespect. Their nervous system simply hit a breaking point of emotional intensity and needed a release. Or think about hospital settings. Nurses and doctors often report laughing at moments that would seem shocking to an outsider, right after a difficult diagnosis conversation or during an incredibly stressful procedure. This isn't because medical professionals don't care. It's because they're regularly exposed to extremely high emotional intensity, and laughter becomes one of the tools their nervous system uses to keep functioning under pressure. Think about kids too. Children often burst into laughter right after getting hurt, before they even start crying. Watch a toddler trip and fall. For a split second, there's this strange laugh-cry hybrid moment, where their brain hasn't decided yet how to process the shock. That's the emotional regulation system working in real time, right in front of you. Or consider something as simple as being caught doing something embarrassing. Someone walks in on you talking to yourself, and instead of just saying, "Oh, sorry," you burst out laughing. That's the sudden spike of social awkwardness triggering the same release mechanism. Even in horror movies, you'll notice people laughing during the scariest scenes. Not because it's funny, but because their fear response needs somewhere to go. And laughter is often the fastest exit. Sports offer another clear example. Watch footage of an athlete who just lost a championship game after months of intense training. Sometimes, in the middle of the interview, right after the heartbreak, they'll let out a short, strange laugh before the tears come. Commentators sometimes read this as the athlete not caring enough. In reality, it's the opposite. The emotional stakes were so high that the nervous system needed an immediate release valve before it could even process the sadness underneath. Classrooms show this pattern too. A student gets called out by a teacher in front of everyone, and instead of looking ashamed, they start giggling. Other students might assume they're being defiant. Teachers might assume the same. But often, that laugh is simply the fastest way the student's nervous system found to cope with sudden public embarrassment. It's not always defiance. Sometimes it's just biology working faster than social awareness. Even everyday family life is full of these moments. Think about a serious conversation between partners about finances, or a tense discussion about a family conflict. Right when the emotional pressure in the room becomes almost unbearable, one person cracks a nervous laugh, and suddenly the whole tone of the room shifts. Sometimes for the better, sometimes making the other person feel dismissed. Understanding this mechanism can actually help couples communicate better, because it reframes that laugh as a stress response, instead of a sign that one partner doesn't take the issue seriously. This pattern shows up again and again in courtrooms, hospitals, classrooms, funerals, family arguments, job interviews, sports interviews, first dates gone wrong, different settings, same underlying mechanism, emotional overload, searching for release. So now that we understand why this happens, what can you actually do with this knowledge? How do you handle it the next time your body decides to laugh at the worst possible moment? Before the moment happens, if you know you're heading into an emotionally intense situation, like a funeral, a serious meeting, or a hospital visit, it can help to mentally prepare yourself. Simply knowing that nervous laughter is a normal physiological response, not a character flaw, can reduce the shame that often makes the urge even stronger. Ironically, the more you fear laughing at the wrong time, the more tense you become, and the more likely that tension is to erupt as laughter. During the moment, if you feel the laugh building, try shifting your focus to something physical instead of fighting the urge directly. Press your tongue to the roof of your mouth, take a slow breath through your nose, or gently dig your nails into your palm. These small physical actions can redirect some of that nervous energy without you needing to suppress the emotion completely, which often backfires and makes the urge stronger. If you do laugh, and it happens to almost everyone at some point, the best move is often just a quiet, honest acknowledgement. A simple, sorry, nervous laugh is usually enough. People are far more understanding about this than you'd expect, because most of them have experienced it themselves. Trying to hide it, or overcorrect with intense seriousness, usually draws more attention than the laugh itself. Afterward, avoid spiraling into guilt or self-judgment. This isn't a moral failure. It's not a sign that you don't care. It's your nervous system doing what nervous systems have done for hundreds of thousands of years. Managing emotional overload the fastest way it knows how. Understanding this can also change how you view other people's inappropriate laughter. Next time you see someone laugh at a funeral, during bad news, or in a tense meeting, you'll recognize what's actually happening. Not disrespect, not coldness, just a nervous system trying to cope with more emotional intensity than it can smoothly process. So here's the final surprising fact. Laughter might be one of the oldest, most primitive stress relief systems humans ever developed, older than spoken language itself. Some researchers believe laughter-like vocalizations existed in our ancestors long before modern speech evolved, which means that awkward laugh you let out during a tense meeting last week connects you to a survival mechanism that helped early humans get through danger, fear, and uncertainty long before words even existed. So the next time your body laughs at the wrong moment, remember, you're not broken. You're running one of the oldest programs your brain has. If this helped you understand your own brain a little better, you know where the subscribe button is.